Good evening, everybody, and welcome to the 20th Annual Coastal Stewardship Awards presented by the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana. I'm Jimmy Frederick. Tonight, we honor 15 coastal champions who have, in their unique and special ways, all made a real impact on coastal restoration here in Louisiana. Tonight, you're going to hear from our Executive Director, Kimberly Davis-Ryer, our Board Chair, Pierre Connor, and, of course, our keynote speaker, Mary Landrieu, and many of the winners from tonight. So please don't go anywhere and enjoy the 20th Annual Coastal Stewardship Awards presented by CRCL.
CRCL has been doing this for 20 years. There is reason to celebrate. Even as we face a crisis of land loss, there's a lot of great activity in our state, and there's a lot of reason for hope. We have a plan for coastal restoration. We have resources and the possibility of more, but because people understand the value of investing in coastal restoration. And we have leadership in the state level and in the business community who understand it's important that we do this for our people, for our coast, for our economy. Tonight we're honoring people who've helped in this effort in lots of different ways. They range from an author of a children's book that's really quite remarkable, to a scientist who's been studying engineering systems and land building systems for many years and really driving our thinking about what is going to effectively create marsh, create land. We have political leaders here tonight. We really have a wide variety of the people making a difference for our coast right now.
We've got a very diverse group of coastal champions tonight, and it's pretty special to see what all these folks have done to help coastal restoration.
Oh, absolutely. It is a dire issue. And I think if we don't do anything, it's untenable. And it could be somewhat depressing when we speak of the statistics of land loss and what the impact is. However, tonight we're going to celebrate some people that have made some real special contributions, and I hope that what we'll do here is inspire others to say, you know what, we can fix this problem and we can make progress and we will turn this tide. The individuals tonight that we're going to honor have done amazing things. I'm humbled to be in their presence and see what they've done through many different vehicles, be they academics, in business, volunteers, and even people still in school. Our keynote speaker has spent most of her life serving the citizens of Louisiana. She was elected to the state legislature in 1979. Serving 2 terms in the House of Representatives. She was elected state treasurer in 1987, and in 1996 she went to Washington, D.C. to represent our state in the U.S. Senate. While there, Senator Mary Landrieu made coastal restoration in Louisiana one of her top legislative priorities. The accomplishments are truly amazing when put in the context of what had to be dealt with. In 2005, Senator Landrieu helped create the Coastal Impact Assistance Program, which gives funds to states to help mitigate environmental effects of offshore energy production. It took a 10-year fight, but in 2006, the Domenici-Landrieu Gulf of Mexico Energy Security Act, GOMESA, Senator Landrieu secured a portion of federal revenues from offshore production solely dedicated to coastal restoration, conservation, and hurricane protection, reversing a long-standing slight to our state, I might add. And she led the bipartisan effort to get the Restore Act passed in the aftermath of the Deepwater Horizon oil spill. Her credentials and her success in this effort speak volumes about her love of the coast of Louisiana. Now understand, it may be all born from a field trip that took place from Ursuline Academy to go watch the Blessing of the Fleet. If that's true, she'll tell us about it. Please join me in a warm welcome for Senator Mary Landrieu.
Please, everyone, thank you. Thank you. Please be seated. What an honor it is to be in this great ballroom tonight with coastal champions that get it, that understand it, and are passionate about what we do. And I was so really touched to get the invitation. You know, after you lose an election, you don't get many invitations to speak. So I'm thinking, this must really be a poor soul group, you know, that needs to invite poor me, you know, to come talk. So I was so happy to get it. And then when Kim and the staff sent me a follow-up to say that I would be getting an award, I was very, very touched that you all would do that and honor me in this way tonight. I want to just share with you a few things, and I have family that I introduced, but my staff is like my family. And I have several of them here tonight. And I'm going to talk about things that we accomplished together, all of us, and a bit about what the challenges are ahead. But I want to acknowledge the staffers that are here, because we've been together so long, it's like being a family. It is hard for me even to believe that I started doing this work when I was 23 years old. I had been out of LSU all of 6 months, and I just don't know how, when I look back, how I had the guts or the whatever it was to just get into the political arena. And some of you might think, well, your dad or your mom, I mean, they were the last people to know. I had already put up 500 signs in my district. And my dad, you know, came home one day, he said, hell, you really are running for office, you know, so. But I had great friends always that encouraged me. And some of them are here tonight. I've got to start with Norma Jane Sabiston, who is literally, we met when we were 17 years old. Norma Jane, stand up, 30 years in government service. Worked for Billy Tozan, John Breaux, and Mary Landrieu, so she deserves a special place in heaven. And was the chief of staff for years, my first chief of staff, when we laid the ground, and one of the few women chiefs of staff in Washington, D.C., when we laid the groundwork for the strategy for how we were going to, you know, tackle, Denise, you remember this, tackle some of the big issues about trying to get some money to do the work. So Norma Jane was there from the beginning, and T. Bradley Keith has been trying to get away from me for like 25 years. T. Bradley, and I won't let him, my state director, T. Bradley Keith. T worked in the treasurer's office with me as a communications director when we both discovered, and I'm going to tell the story about the nuns in a minute, but when we both discovered when the 8G money came into the state, some of you are very young and will not remember any of this. But for the old ones, Oliver and Mark and others, the old ones that are here like me, will remember when the 8G money came in that Bennett Johnston got for the state, the discrepancy between 3 and 6 miles, and we argued with the, federal government. T was in the office when I thought to myself, I wonder where I wonder what happens beyond 6 miles. That's literally the first notion that I had about, you know, there must be more money out there. Having never worked on an oil rig or, you know, hadn't at that time in my life ever really been offshore other than fishing. I mean, I've been down to Grand Isle. I mean, everybody had, but so T's been literally with me since the beginning. And then Elizabeth Weiner is here. Elizabeth, stand up. She's our champion coastal, wonderful, extraordinary person. And you all know Liz, but for the young people in this room, I want you to know when Liz was an intern with me, and then she raised money for me in the campaign, and this is a funny story for those young people that think, I wonder if the principal, like when you go to work for an office, and like you don't think the boss recognizes you or knows you. Well, Elizabeth worked for me for like 1.5 years. I never paid any attention to her. And so, not that she wasn't good, but I mean, I had like 100 people working in this campaign. So in Washington, Norma Jane calls me, she says, you better hire this Elizabeth Weiner. She is the most fabulous thing in the world. And sure enough, I hired her. She turned out to be the most fabulous thing in the world. So, and more than being, and she's just passionate about the coast. And so it's so nice as a senior person now to have younger people that have really gotten bit by the bug, and you know that the work is going to go on because, you know, it's the next generation that gets it. And so Elizabeth and her cohort get it. Now, the next group, and I'm going to get to my speech in a minute, is not on my staff, but they sort of like are on my staff, and that would be Boo Thomas and the CPEX people. Will y'all stand and take a bow? All the great CPEX people that do all the planning work and do great work and have been recognized all over the country post-Katrina, even before, but really post-Katrina with Louisiana Speaks, helping all of our communities plan and really think about, particularly those south of I-10, what do we want to look like in 20 or 25 years? But the big question is, how do we stay here, in 20 or 25 years? Not just how wide the sidewalks are and, how slow the streets are and how do people cross, et cetera, and walkable, livable communities. But it goes beyond that. And so CPEX has been a great leader, and I thank all the staff and extended staff that are here. Really quickly, I just want to talk about understanding and knowledge for a minute, commitment and dedication, and teamwork and collaboration. Some of you on the ground level 30 years ago helped, and some of you are the professors, the scientists, the leaders, the environmentalist, the naturalist, who really helped the state of Louisiana start understanding with basic knowledge about the terrible state of our coast. Now, I wish I could say when Pierre introduced me that the Ursuline nuns knew that when they organized a field trip down to Lafourche when I was 12 years old, but that's not the case. This was a long time ago. This would be 1967. I was 12 years old. Went down the bayou in a school bus because the nuns thought it was important for the Catholic girls from Ursuline to see the blessing of the fleet and to see the priest and to understand that our bounty is given by God and we have a special obligation to appreciate it, and wanted us to see this great celebration. So as a kid, I'm in the school bus, hot as heck, going down the bayou, looking out the window to Bayou Lafourche, and as a girl from New Orleans, I'd only seen Lake Pontchartrain, and this world was so different to me, and I can remember at that moment looking at it, and it looked so fragile. I don't even know how I understood this at that age, but it looked so fragile to me, but it looked so spectacular. And when you see the priests with their vestments on the front of the shrimp boat, I'm sure you all have seen the blessing of the fleet, and all the shrimp boats and all the wonderful people and the kids, I just could remember thinking to myself, this is a world worth loving or worth knowing, et cetera. So that's kind of what caught my initial attention. Then at 23, fast forward 10 years, not that long, I'm in the legislature, and I meet Lenny Chabert from Chauvin and some of the legislators out in the area. And I had hardly ever been out of New Orleans, and that's how, when I'd go down there, then as an adult, I started thinking to myself, what is going on? So the nuns who have been here, they landed in 1727. The first woman pharmacist in the country was an Ursuline nun. And they've been leading, and just this year, thanks to all of us, Ursuline and many schools are changing their service hours to coastal restoration, teaching the kids about coastal restoration in our high schools. There are other high schools that are doing that. So the story, the nuns went down for the blessing of the fleet, but I came back inspired as a young kid and then went on as a leader in school, high school, and college, and then elected early to do this. Garrett Graves, I don't know if Garrett is still, Garrett, you're there, right there. Garrett Graves started out young too. I don't think at 23, Garrett, but it was close. What was that?
I started to enter codes when I interned in the row at 22.
Oh, okay, hit 22. Let's give him a round of applause. Started out as an intern. So for moms, dads, grandparents, your 20-year-olds, your teenagers are just not too young. I mean, they can get it. And of course, when you're bringing them out fishing, et cetera. So Understanding and knowledge with the scientists, cutting edge, but we have to not just tell the story to each other, and it's a story that not just Louisiana has to understand, but what we're doing much better in the last 10 years, particularly, and Kim, with your leadership and others, is telling the story nationally about the importance of our delta, the 7th largest delta on the planet, and our wetlands, or America's wetlands. And I love the Everglades, and I love the Great Lakes, and I love the ecosystems around the country, but no ecosystem pulls more weight, carries a heavier burden than this ecosystem in South Louisiana. And we have got to tell that story and tell it proudly, tell it without flinching. Yes, we did many things wrong in the past, many things. And I thank Pierre for your father that had the wherewithal to say the marsh buggies, let's get in helicopters. But there were so many mistakes that we made. We wouldn't make those same mistakes now, but we didn't know. So getting the knowledge and the science behind it and promoting that, not just through Congress, which Garrett does beautifully as a staffer and now as a member of Congress, but to the publications, scientific publications, general publications, tourism, ecotourism, and get that word out. And we have to continue to do that and educate our young people. Number 2, commitment and dedication. You know, the agendas can get filled up, and your day can be filled up literally before 10 o'clock in the morning. You've already done a few things that have set the course of your day. And at the end of your day, you sometimes, I know if you're like me, sit in the chair, lay in bed, and think, what in the heck did I even get done today? So a strategy of leadership is not to be distracted. In the midst of all the noise and all the confusion and all the clamor for your time, your energy, your money, your strength, you have to be disciplined enough and directed enough and passionate enough to keep it directed at the issue, because it's not maybe the most urgent issue like that people would recognize every day. It's not a house on fire. It's not a kid that has to go get stitches to the, you know, it is urgent, and it has to be worked at every day. So I would just urge you, you're already committed, you're already dedicated, but just really think through that level of dedication, take it up a notch or two, bring a couple of more people in, because we need to widen this circle. And thirdly, teamwork and collaboration. Nothing can be done without teamwork and collaboration, and particularly on this issue. When I got to Congress and figured out what was beyond the 6 miles, it made me so mad, because it is $216 billion beyond the 6 miles. That's how much money the federal government has taken off the shore of Louisiana. $216 billion beyond the 6 mile. And that's primarily from Louisiana and Texas, a little bit Mississippi, a little bit Alabama. There are not 4 states in the Union, not California, not Texas, that have given that much money to the federal treasury from its one natural resource. I mean, this isn't like timber, coal, everything. This is just oil and gas, one, if you put those together. Not its timber, not its agriculture, just one. $216 billion. So when that number came to me, I thought, and we are having a problem asking them to just leave $1 billion, just 1 or 2 or 3 billion. We have to hear things like we can't afford it, it's our money, it's not your money, all the states need to share it. So it took a lot of teamwork to get that number out there, explain to people. Meanwhile, you all know this story. If that number doesn't make you mad and wants you to sit up and stay up late tonight, the other outrageous situation is the interior states, Wyoming, New Mexico, Colorado, have been sharing those mineral revenues since 1927. And I say in my speech it's 50%, but technically it's like 90%. because they get 50%, but then about 40% of the money also goes to a reclamation fund that the federal government then distributes only to Western states. So when you think of the injustice here of our Gulf Coast states that are producing, and without the servitudes, without our, from Plaquemine Parish to Lafourche Parish to Terrebonne Parish, to St. Mary's, to St. Bernard, Cameron, without our coastal parishes pretty much serving as the platform, the federal government could not access these resources. So with the $216 billion figure, which is the amount that's come and gone to the federal treasury, $216 billion, and knowing that the western states have collected billions of dollars and get to use it, and wait, this is the great injustice, they're not even required to use it for their environment. They can take that money and eliminate their income tax. They can take that money from the environment and lower their sales tax. They can take that money and fund their rural schools program, which they do. We have committed to only share 37%, which is extraordinarily reasonable. We could demand 50, but we've said 37. We'll even take it prospectively, and we will dedicate every single penny to saving the coast. And we have to make sure this governor and future governors don't rig that system, all right? We got to make sure. So it took a lot of teamwork. 4,500 organizations came together to support the first bill. I'm not going to go through all this. CARA, Coastal and Conservation and Reinvestment Act. Thank you. 4,500 organizations came together to put the power behind this first movement to get some money distributed to coastal land and water conservation. It fell short, but it laid such great groundwork for funding for wetlands and wildlife and coastal. Then we were able to come back, get the $1 billion for CPEC, 500 came to Louisiana. Before that, I want to shout out to John Breaux and Billy Tozan, who really fought hard for QIPRA money, which many of us have been funded. Garrett was on Billy's staff. That QIPRA money started out at $13 million a year. It's now up to, I think, 50, 60 a year. That's not pocket change. That money continues to come in. Maybe is it 80? 80. All right, it's 85 million dollars a year. So let's give a shout out to John Breaux. Thank you for doing that. So every member of our delegation, in the last 20 years has really put their shoulder to the wheel and has delivered a piece, their vote to get this done. We finally got Gomesa. Now the president wants to take it away. He's not going to get it. We're going to fight very hard to keep Gomesa, the $500 million coming to the Gulf of Mexico, to Texas, Louisiana, Mississippi, and Alabama. Our Restore Act, if we can ever get it out of the courts, should bring a one-time several billion, we don't know, but somewhere between $2 and $4 billion is the way we've written the formula based on a reasonable settlement. It could be more, it could be less, but we should get, I think, about that. That's a lot of money. So my end is this. Teamwork, collaboration, holding our congressional delegations' feet to the fire. You don't have to worry about Garrett. He's a leader. Steve Scalise is a leader. Charles Bustani has been doing great. Cedric Richmond, and we even have our North Louisiana legislators tuned in. We've also got to hold the next governor, and I'll close with this. Hold his feet to the fire, whoever gets elected, because the federal government has put up virtually every major piece of funding. And between QIPRA, between Gomesa, between the Restore Act. Now the state has put up some matching money as is required for some of these projects, and the locals, Terrebonne Parish has passed its own tax and put up some local money. But I think we have to decide, and I'm going to ask the scientists to decide this and the accountants, what is the number that we want the state of Louisiana to put up every year, and we don't want to hear any griping about it. Whether it's 100 million, whether it's 200 million, whether it's 300 million a year, and make the governor commit to do that, because it'll match the 250 million that's coming from the federal government, On top of that, you have QIPRA, that's 80. So what is that number? And how much can we effectively spend every year? And that money is like in a trust. It is not fooled with. And it doesn't matter if there's a Republican governor, a Democratic governor, old, young, whatever. It just is what we need to invest in our coast and to keep our people safe and strong. And it can be done. Great marshes, restoring the coast. There are mayors in this room, Tim Mott from Morgan City. We have so much work to do in the Atchafalaya and everywhere. But it's just going to be done with collaboration, teamwork, dedication, and knowledge. And God bless you all. I'm honored for this award. Thank you.
We're going to start tonight with Friends of the Coalition Award. We have 2 to present, or 5, it depends how you choose to count. Our Friend of the Coalition Award recognizes those individuals, organizations, or businesses that have demonstrated a sustained or significant commitment of financial support, resources, or time to CRCL, to restore coastal Louisiana. This is our inward-looking award. These people help us and help the rest of you get our work done. And we're going to start tonight with the Lafitte National Historic Park and Preserve. We recognize the John Lafitte National Historical Park and Preserve for their continued partnership, help, and guidance. Since 2010, the staff at John Lafitte has helped facilitate the planting of 6,300 cypress trees by 569 volunteers, which restored more than 31 acres of wetlands. Our second Friends of the Coalition Award tonight goes to a group of volunteers: Shay Gilliland, Donald Hicks, Arnaldo Pineda, and Jack Rodasta. As I mentioned earlier, through our habitat restoration program, we get people into the marsh and into the mud. We feel this is really important to empower us, to inspire us, as well as to get the wetlands planted. And these 4 volunteers have gone above and beyond CRCL to help our coast. We couldn't do it without them. These volunteers have shown up repeatedly. They've planted, they've persevered in all kinds of onerous conditions, and they've really made it happen. We very much appreciate their help. Our next award is brand new. After 20 years, a brand new award. This goes to Sean Turner. This is the Youth Coastal Stewardship Award. For the very first time, our judging committee decided to recognize an outstanding young person, a young man in this case, with the Youth Stewardship Award. Sean Turner is 11 years old. Sean has been concerned about coastal restoration since the age of 8, when he made a video, a heartfelt advocacy for the passage of the Restore Act. Sean has volunteered for CRCL, Vanishing Paradise, the National Wildlife Federation, the Louisiana Wildlife Federation, and spread the word about coastal restoration far and wide. He's also a straight A student, a 6th grade student at Louisiana Virtual Charter Academy, and a team leader in archery and Ascension 4-H shooting club. We're now going to move on to the Coastal Stewardship Awards for those who are beyond their youth stage, perhaps. These awards recognize those individuals or organizations that have demonstrated valuable commitment to coastal restoration. And what you'll hear is that these people are contributing in many different ways, many varied and wonderful ways. We're going to start tonight with Captain Wendy Wilson Billiot. Captain Billiot is a transplant to the coast from North Louisiana, moving to Thibodaux in 1978 to work in the oil field. The long trips from the marsh out to the Gulf made her realize how precious Louisiana's coast is to our state. In 2014, she penned a children's book called Before the Saltwater Came, which hopefully you saw out on the silent auction table, beautiful book, to highlight the problem of saltwater intrusion and its negative effects on inland marshes. She now owns and operates Wetland Tour and Guide Service, which focuses on educational and eco-tours in and around the waters of Lower Delage. She also works as a freelance writer and photographer highlighting the growing coastal land loss crisis in Louisiana. Our next Coastal Stewardship Award is presented to Dr. Robert Bob Gramling. Okay. Dr. Gramling's body of work was so compelling and influential that the judging committee made the unprecedented decision to award him a posthumous Coastal Stewardship Award. Unfortunately, Dr. Gramling passed away in November of 2014, but during his amazing career, he made significant advances in the field of environmental sociology and to the understanding of the social impacts of coastal land loss and energy development. Dr. Gramling also co-authored 5 books and countless scientific articles. Dr. Gramling's widow is in the audience with us tonight, Eileen Daly, but his award is being received by Dr. Shirley Laska. Our next Coastal Stewardship Award goes to Albertine Kimball. Albertine has spent 30 years serving the people of Plaquemines Parish in a variety of capacities, most recently as the local coastal program manager. Her instinctive knowledge and love of her coastal community helped her bring residents, business leaders, and government agencies together with the common goal of saving and restoring the coast. Albertine has been a vocal proponent of river diversions to help restore our coastal marshes, saying, ready? We need Miracle-Gro, and the river has it. Okay. Kimball will be retiring from her long and illustrious career in June, but she is committed to continuing to work and support coastal restoration and conservation. Our next recipient is Janet Rodas. Janet Rodas founded Launch Leeville as a forum to highlight the ecology and erosion of the fishing coast in Lower Lafourche Parish. She was instrumental in having Lieutenant Governor Jay Darden identify Leeville as a cultural district, the first in Lafourche Parish. Her efforts have focused attention on the need to restore and protect the endangered coast of Lafourche and Terrebonne parishes. Recently, she was awarded a conservation permit to save a forgotten and vanishing cemetery. Rodas's work is the first of its kind in the Leeville area. Our next recipient is Dr. Denise Reed. Although originally from England, Dr. Denise Reed now calls South Louisiana home. She is nationally and internationally recognized expert in coastal marsh sustainability and the role of human activities in modifying coastal systems. Dr. Reed has been involved in restoration planning for coastal Louisiana since the mid-1980s, with a focus on bringing scientific knowledge to bear and developing sustainable solutions. She was involved in developing Louisiana's 2012 Coastal Master Plan, and she is part of the development of the 2017 Coastal Master Plan. She currently serves as the Chief Scientist for the Water Institute of the... And our final Coastal Stewardship Award recipient is David Richard. As a veteran wildlife biologist for the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries, David Richard developed a new coastal wetland management technique and promoted waterfowl management in public and private marshes. He has been a strong and vocal advocate for coastal restoration in Louisiana, testifying on the state's behalf before a U.S. Senate committee after Hurricanes Katrina and Rita. He is currently applying his wetland management skills to marshes in the southwestern portion of our state as the Executive Vice President of Stream Wetland Services, LLC, where he oversees 150,000 acres of upland and wetland areas. Our next award is the Distinguished Achievement Award. This is given to an individual who has exhibited an outstanding commitment to coastal restoration. This award is presented this year to Senator Mary Landrieu. This year's recipient fits the description perfectly. Throughout her 18 years in the United States Senate, the preservation and restoration of Louisiana's coast was always at the forefront of Senator Mary Landrieu's agenda. In 2005, she secured $500 million for coastal restoration in Louisiana through the Coastal Impact Assistance Program. In the aftermath of the 2010 Deepwater Horizon oil spill, she spearheaded the bipartisan bicameral effort to direct 80% of the Clean Water Act penalties back to Gulf states for coastal restoration. She clearly demonstrates an unwavering devotion to Louisiana's coast. Congratulations and thank you. Tonight, we're very proud to present 2 Lifetime Achievement Awards as well. The Lifetime Achievement Award is given to individuals who have demonstrated the highest level of commitment to coastal restoration and preservation through a sustained and lengthy career. And our first recipient tonight is Professor Oliver Hauk. Professor Hauk is a singular force who champions the importance of protection and restoration of coastal Louisiana. As one of the founders of the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana, and also the Lake Pontchartrain Basin Foundation, Hauk created a strong environmental advocacy framework that encouraged and nurtured the participation of residents and citizens in coastal restoration. Dr. Hauk has received numerous local, statewide, and national awards for his teaching and environmental work. A prolific author, Hauk has written 8 books and countless articles in environmental law and coastal restoration policy. He currently leads the environmental law program at Tulane Law School in New Orleans. We'd like to ask you to say a few words.
I want you to know that I did not ask for this. I was asked to say a few words, so I will. And they're the reason I came here, really, because I have something I really want to say to you. But first of all, let me say what a nice evening. I'm seeing people here that I haven't seen since 1971 when I came down here to work here. Edgar Villon, Woody Gagliano, Don Davis. These are my heroes. And I've worked with them for a long time, and then they went off my radar. I'd like to salute all of you who've been in this so long. God bless you. But I think I'd like to salute most of all the honoree-in-chief. There's no doubt about the honoree-in-chief here. It's our senator. She's still our senator, Mary Landrieu. We've already applauded her, but you should know that I met Senator Landrieu when she was Representative Landrieu, recently elected to the House, at the home of the Dean of the Law School in New Orleans, and I was recently notorious in New Orleans for suggesting we clean up Lake Pontchartrain and proposing a way to do that irritated some people. Mary made the mistake of asking me about it, and before I could get into it, the dean's wife rescued her and called us to dinner. And here's the amazing thing. Since then, it's been 30-some years. I have sent her some of the best and brightest of my students, and they've been wowed, and they've done the work they could. And we have worked on, she and I, on energy and environment issues almost constantly since then. Largely Louisiana, but in Alaska and other places. Sometimes on the same side, sometimes not, but always with great respect. And throughout that, we've never seen each other. So to see her again tonight is to me a great pleasure. It's just a great pleasure, and I wanted to say that personally and professionally. This is sweet. I didn't expect it. I didn't know when you said, could you come up, that would be the case. That makes the evening for me as well as so many other things. As for the honor for me, let me say this, and my condolences to Mary, who was distinguished something or other. I was always also distinguished something or other some years ago, and I asked my wife what distinguished meant to her. What did she think distinguished meant? And she turned to me and she said, no longer dangerous. And then comes the Lifetime Achievement Award. Well, let me tell you. You know what Lisa said to me about that. She said, you're dead. But I'm really not. I'm here. And I'm here with a couple of things to say to you, really, about your past and about your future. I have no right to talk to you about your future, but certainly your past. I was part of your past. And I take you back to a very hot evening, brutally hot, tropical, in New Orleans. One of those evenings where it finally rains, and then after the rain, it's even worse than before it rains. And we meet in the offices of Mike Osborne, the only environmental lawyer in Louisiana then in the early 80s. God bless Mike. He has no air conditioning, and he has the biggest cigar from Cuba in his mouth, and it's just an appalling environment. And there are about, what I remember in the room is myself, Jim Tripp from EDF, God bless him, John Day from LSU, Rob Gorman from Catholic Social Services, and and there might have been one or two others, but here's what we were collectively there for. We were getting beaten to death. The Atchafalaya Floodway Project, a big dredging project, 1 million acres of wetlands going down the tube. The lower Atchafalaya Canal with a lot of problems. The Mistergo with more problems than we could shout about, and nobody paid it. It looked like a time bomb, and nobody saw it. Cameron Creole Project, Biosauvage, the Pontchartrain dredging, that went on 11 years. It was just highways through the marsh, levees through the marsh, oil and gas canals. My God, you go up in a plane and look down. It looked like northern New Jersey. What the hell? And now the word was the whole thing was collapsing. So what were we going to do? And it occurred to us that, A, there was no institution in the state that attended to this. Secondly, there was no plan. And the third, there was no organization to ramrod it forward. So we decided to put that together. I say we, it was largely others. What emerged, the document here today, gone tomorrow, is one of the most remarkable documents in Louisiana environmental history. It is astonishing. I suggest, Kim, that you make it copies of it and make it sort of mandatory reading for your board and give an exam on it. It's astonishingly prescient and astonishingly detailed. I am sure that Denise even finds it useful today in preparing the subsequent plans. And I don't mean to knock them at all. The plans are in constant iteration. Those of us who are frustrated by the pace don't appreciate the complexity of it and the need to adjust to new constituencies and new information. That's an act. I'm sure that what will come out will be sound. I have confidence in it. But if you're frustrated with the process, bear with her. That's it. 60 pages of text, 6 pages of footnotes that would blow your mind. Everything scientific and engineering written about the coast is in there. And I want to read you, I'm not going to bore you with this, 3 sentences. Here's what it says on the key page. The program must have 3 basic goals. 1, enhancement of sediment and freshwater input to the coastal zone via diversions of the Mississippi and Atchafalaya River sediments. Sound familiar? Okay, that's 1. Number 2, repair or restoration of disturbed wetlands and barrier islands transected by existing canals. Whoa, 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 whoa. 3, a phase out to construction or expansion of new canals in favor of alternative access methods. Whoa. Understand this, of the 3 major purposes of this founding document that was your Magna Carta and became a large part of the blueprint for the state, 2 of the 3 concerned private activities in the zone that should be repaired and that should be approached in a new way. As I say, a very prescient document. And the third was, of course, the last recommendation was the creation of y'all, the coalition. I hated that name. I filed the incorporation papers. I hated the name. I've argued against it. What does it mean? I mean, it's that blah. I wanted, the Tigers of the South or something. No. But I'm convinced that the names don't matter. It's what you do that matters, and then you get known for what you do. And here's what you did. It's astonishing. You accomplished some incredible things in those first 10 years. I mean, really incredible. You actually got an institution created within Louisiana, which is now a mega institution with research and policy and legal and the rest of it. It's really impressive. That happened. Check. You also created a plan or a planning process, and the plan is an iteration, and don't be disappointed that it's not the plan. If it were the plan, it would be fatal. It couldn't move. So that's moving. Check. You also created a funding mechanism for this. You didn't alone. Your congressional delegation did largely, and so did your state delegation, Ben Baggert and others in the legislature, and with the constitutional amendment and the rest of it. It's not sufficient. It's nowhere near sufficient. The gap in funding for what's needed is larger than the funding you've got, even with Mary's heroic efforts. God knows, I mean, following Mary is a trick. I've got to tell you, I hear from senators and others on the Hill that following Mary is like a death sentence because there's so much passion. And well, I got it too. Same vice. That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much. We very much appreciate your thoughtful remarks and advice. Okay. I'd now like to call up Dr. Shirley Radway-Laska. From the boardroom to the classroom to the field, Dr. Shirley Laska's lengthy career exemplifies the highest level of commitment and ethics to the preservation and restoration of coastal communities and wetlands. Over more than 30 years, she has led a statewide effort to build out and resource sustainable education institutions, having the vision that a more systems-based approach was needed to help advance the case for coastal restoration. Dr. Laska created institutions, organizations, and mentored students, and engaged with local communities and their leadership, ensuring that correcting the coastal land loss problem remained a top priority. She goes beyond the academic sphere to ensure that all citizens along the coast can be part of the needed discourse for developing tools and resources to address our crisis. Dr. Laska is truly a student and teacher of the coast, and also a former CRCL board member.
All these comments brought back memories of being on the board. An academic should never follow a lawyer in terms of giving a talk. We would try to get a word in edgewise when Mark Davis was the director, and we never could. We never could. And we all thought we were assertive and aggressive, and I see some nodding heads here of board members when I was a member. It's just lawyers. I mean, what can we say? You know, they have a wonderful gift of presentation. I just was totally stunned by this award. I had no idea that I was going to receive it. This colleague and best friend, Christina Peterson, pulled this off without my knowing that all this was going on. I thought we were working for Bob Gramling's award, and all of a sudden I found that I was here. I, too, have a story to tell, and that is about the senator and the beginning of the work that I'm going to make comments about tonight. And it has to do with the students and the way in which we get that professional young group of individuals in this state to do the kinds of work that we want them and we need them to do. I was vice president of research at the university and one of the first visitors to the senator's office when she was a freshman. And it was just wonderful to watch her in her beginning years of learning the way to do this. And the successes, of course, are just totally evident. But she helped us to get the funding for the center that produced so many of these very talented young people. The center is called the Center for Hazard Assessment, Response, and Technology, and it's at the University of New Orleans. And I was just informed by the current director, I have been retired now for 6 years, that we have just hired our 100th graduate research associate. So this group of individuals forms the core of the young people that we have produced, and I wanted to bring some of them with me tonight so that you can hear the kinds of work that young professionals are doing with regard to the coast and with regard to the communities. So I'm going to spend a few minutes pointing out this. There's 6 of them. There's, excuse me, 3 are sitting here and 3 are sitting with the Lafitte group in the back, and just tell you who they are and what they're doing, just so you get a feel for how important their work is and their contribution to the efforts that you value. I'm going to do it chronologically, the first one being Joanne Darrowan, who's sitting next to Bob's widow, Eileen Daly. And she's a professor at UL and teaches community relations and also environmental sociology. So she was the very beginnings of the work that we did. Following her was Maggie Olivier, who's sitting in the back. And Maggie is now the mitigation specialist for Jefferson Parish. And so she works on the mitigation work. And mitigation is a different meaning than what Ollie mentioned. There's 2 different meanings, and I'll mention that in just a second. Alessandra Girolamo, who is seated here, is the founder of a national organization called the Natural Hazards Mitigation Association. And she is the author of the report that the National Wildlife Federation came out with 2 years ago. And as you can see, the title is Achieving Resilience in Coastal Communities. So her work has produced a report that I highly encourage that you read. I have 3 different reports that I'm recommending that you put on your night table for evening reading. Following her, we had, let me see now, where am I in terms of Evan Ponder, who's sitting back right next to Maggie. And he's been working with the Ile-de-Jean-Charles Native community on the efforts to resettle them. He's been here now for 5 years, and we are sending him off to get a master's degree, and we know we have the hook to bring him back, to come back into the state to do more work. The other 2 are our newest representatives, and one is Olivia Porter, who came to us from from a Peace Corps assignment in Africa, but now has gotten her master's degree in planning at UNO, where she worked on a very interesting project we did on the layering of disasters, the layering of hurricanes, and the layering of the BP oil spill on the residents of the communities, and how they respond to them, how they adapt, how they try to become resilient in these different layers. She's now a law student at Loyola, and this summer we'll be back in Terrebonne doing a project with the Ile-de-Jean-Charles through her internship for the summer. And finally, I brought a student who is Mark Davis's postgraduate intern this year. He's finished his law degree. He's been with Mark for the year, working on water issues, because as you probably know, in New Orleans we now have the water plan, and lots of interest in stormwater management, and also the relationship of what happens inside of the levee to what happens outside the levee. I met this young man because I was asked to mentor him. He has a small business as well as being a lawyer. And it turned out that he got very interested in the community rating system, which I think probably most of you know. It's the way we can bring down flood insurance by doing extra things in communities. And we struck up a relationship of working together, and we've been doing neat, wonderful things this semester. And this gentleman needs a position as a water policy lawyer, so I hope that some of you might know of some openings. I told Harry to come and to schmooze. So did you schmooze? Okay, good. So it has just been a lifetime of delight of working with students. And if you hadn't helped us, at that time, of course, we had earmarks. So that's what you helped us to get. And it spreads from there. Other students who weren't actually GRAs that have joined this group of students. I did miss 2 people here that are extremely important, and I will hold up their reports. Where is Corey? Is Corey Miller here? There he is. This is the study that he did. He joined a team to do. And it's a study called SciTech, which is Science and Traditional Ecological Knowledge. Matt Bethel is also part of this group of students, who is now the Associate Director of Sea Grant. And I highly recommend this report for you to read as well, and you can see the presentation online. Now, there's one more that I haven't yet called to mention, and that is Camille Manning Broom with CPEX. And this is the latest report off the press in this specialty that we do, which is, again, mitigation and non-structural. And it just appeared on the website, been done this past year in conjunction with Dr. Pam Jenkins at UNO and that part of the CHART program. And I strongly recommend. So you can see how we're unfolding these professional efforts, all of this work coming out of these young people who have come to appreciate the challenges of the coast and how they themselves can help.
Dr. Reedy, first of all, congratulations, and thank you for all you do for coastal restoration. Can you just give me a little idea of what this little award means to you?
Well, Jimmy, thank you for that. But this has been a long time for me. I'm obviously not a native of Louisiana. I moved here in 1986. That's almost 30 years I've been working on this. And I have to tell you that getting an award to work on a system like this, which is a great ecosystem, especially for somebody who talks like me, is just remarkable. And I'm very proud and very honored by the award.
And what got you started in all this stuff?
BP oil spill. Let's just put it at that. I was just skimboarding and having a fun day on the beach. Skimming. BP oil spill. As soon as it happened, oil just came rushing up to the beach. Water and muck everywhere kept on coming on me. And I'm sitting there scratching my head like, what am I going to do? Next week, I go fishing, and I see a pelican island. It's just stripped of everything. It's just dead branches and sand. And I'm seeing pelicans without a nest, looking for a place to make more. And I'm just sitting there like, what can I do? And then I found LWF, which is that's the first place I started from. Then I came here because I thought more opportunities might happen. And I guess I found them.
Awards are not what you're here for, but it's got to be nice to get this.
No, sir, because one, I'm not into recognition, but I am into restoration. Absolutely.
Well, we congratulate you and thank you for being here. It was a wonderful night.
Thank you so much.
We have had a wonderful night here on the banks of the mighty Mississippi River as we have celebrated and honored our 15 coastal champions here at the 20th Annual Coastal Stewardship Awards presented by the Coalition to Restore Coastal Louisiana. To learn more about CRCL and to become a member, visit our website at crcl.org. Have a great night, everybody.